They are children born with AIDS, the next generation with a deadly disease, who are not only battling for their lives, but are fighting stigma and misunderstanding too. Our Beatrice Politi tonight with their courageous stories.
I have AIDS and I want rights! I have AIDS and I want rights!
It is a virus, not a crime. The innocent should not be harmed.
It was called a plague, the gay disease. Fear turned to ignorance and hate, a killer virus blamed on deviants, drug users, and prostitutes.
People with AIDS under attack!
It was the 1980s, and AIDS killed savagely and quickly. A death sentence with a painful, undignified end. Among its victims, heterosexuals, homosexuals, movie stars, athletes, and those yet to be born. 12-year-old Ashley Murphy is the picture of health, an energetic 12-year-old quick as a whip and a budding athlete.
These are the track ones.
She's an aspiring performer too, with the kind of dreams little girls have for the future.
We were both young when I first saw you. Mostly I want to get into singing and acting. I've been singing for forever, since I was 2, I think. And also I'm really into history.
But Ashley isn't just into history. She's making it just by staying alive.
So then I don't take these tonight, Mom? I don't take these tonight?
Ashley was born with AIDS, contracted from her birth mother.
We got a phone call from Children's Aid asking us if we would take a 6-month-old baby for palliative care. And they told us that she had full-blown AIDS, and she had just come out of a 3.5-month-long coma.
My best friends, they all know. Even friends that are not best friends, I still tell them. I don't know why, I just do. I don't feel shamed about it, I just tell my friends.
Ashley is the new face of a generation, one of the children of AIDS, born and growing up with the disease. A situation so new in our society, not even doctors know how long Ashley is expected to live. Carrie Murphy is Ashley's adoptive mother.
My big fear was that she would pass away alone in a cradle or a crib.
Ashley was 6 months old and weighed just 8 pounds when the Murphys took her home for what doctors said would be the last weeks of her life.
And she'd had PC pneumonia. She was very, very sick. And just, getting medicine into her, medicine tastes terrible. It tasted like kerosene. And she used to have tears running down her face, but she'd take it. She always took it.
Against all odds, Ashley just kept getting bigger, stronger, healthier. Her condition went from a death sentence to a life sentence. A regime of daily drugs that keep the virus in her blood at such low levels. Doctors call it undetectable.
She makes it appear effortless. I know it's not effortless. I mean, she struggles.
Doctors of kids like Ashley are noticing something, and it's not good. Their young patients are showing signs of diseases, cancer, liver, and heart disease, that are supposed to hit much later in life. Dr. Gordon Arbus treats HIV/AIDS patients.
There's some evidence to show that people with HIV tend to age prematurely. So someone who's in their 40s with HIV, it's really like someone who's in their 50s or perhaps even 60s.
The frightening possibility, either the virus or the drugs used to treat it, may literally be aging patients from the inside out.
She has asked, will I grow up? Will I be able to go to college, university? Will I get married? Will I be able to have children?
The answer, despite 30 years of research, despite all the drugs, is that right now, there is no answer.
We don't really have that evidence because we don't have a cohort of patients who are born with HIV who are much beyond, 20 or 25 years old. So we can't really answer that question.
So at 12 years of age, Ashley is a medical pioneer, facing an uncertain future. But despite that, she considers the disease a blessing, the strange twist of fate that brought her to this family.
If I didn't have it and my mom didn't have it, my birth mom, then I wouldn't have come here. And I love my parents and my brothers and sisters, and I love living here.
In St. Louis, Missouri, Brian Jackson, like Ashley, is a child of AIDS. He's 19, on the cusp of adulthood, and he plans to have it all. A career, marriage, children, and he plans to die of plain old age.
This is my disease, this is my life, but that's not who I am. I will not be defined by it.
When Brian turned 5, he became feverish, lost his appetite, and was plagued by ear infections and pneumonia. After extensive tests, doctors figured out Brian had AIDS. They gave his mother, Jennifer, the terrible news.
They told me that I probably should plan for his funeral. And so I remember him saying, I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die. Mom, please help me.
Heart-wrenching words for a mother to hear. But what she learned next was even worse. Brian's father had intentionally injected his own son with AIDS-tainted blood.
You don't want to believe that your son is on his deathbed, for one, and that his father could be responsible for this.
Unbelievably, Brian's father tried to kill him with AIDS-tainted blood because he didn't want to pay child support. Brian Stewart was convicted and sentenced to life.
So it is the order, judgment, and sentence of this court that you be confined in the Missouri Department of Corrections for the rest of your natural life.
For the longest time I've been upset, but it's like, I look at it and it's like nothing in my control, I have forgiven him for what he has done.
For Brian, that forgiveness has been far from easy. More than 24 medications kept him alive early on. Now he's down to 3. But the side effects have left him hearing impaired, affecting his speech, and he battles depression.
So sometimes I am depressed living with this disease. You don't know how long you have to live. You don't know what's going on in your body. There's some days that, you just don't feel like you can get up out of bed.
Fighting the disease has been hard enough, but even harder is fighting the discrimination and rejection.
It's the stigma, the stereotypes, the ignorance that I think really hurt Brian. He tells me that he was called the AIDS boy.
Brian, the AIDS boy, wasn't welcome on any sports teams.
Well, if he comes here, he can't drink from the water fountains. Well, don't bring him around my son because I don't want him to get infected.
In Toronto, Simone Schindler says that stigma can be as devastating as the disease. Schindler directs programming for Teresa Group, an organization for children affected by HIV/AIDS.
People in the neighborhood find out, it gets written on walls, the graffiti is left on doors, families are forced to move. So it affects their self-esteem, their sense of self-worth, who they are as people, who will want me.
These days, Brian is in college. He met his girlfriend Brandy at prom. He's even thinking about how he might propose.
I have several ideas, like, go to New York for New Year's, as the ball's counting down, bam, pop that ring out.
It's the first of many adult choices 19-year-old Brian Jackson dreams of being around long enough to make.
I do plan to get married, possibly have kids, and I just want, when I have this kids, I just want to be the father I've never had.
Still to come on 16 by 9.
You worry for your children's safety.
We don't want them to be shunned because of a disease their father has.
That's all coming up. Welcome back to 16 by 9, the bigger picture.
Thanks to medicine, what was once a death sentence is now a life sentence. But kids growing up with AIDS live each day on borrowed time, wondering if they'll ever grow up to have a family of their own. Here again is our Beatrice Politi.
Don't touch the camera, you understand? You don't touch.
AIDS, the disease that triggered fear and loathing worldwide, has come of age. Children born to the disease can only wonder if they will too.
I already feel like I'm living on borrowed time. I'm not supposed to see in the age of 6, here I am.
Brian Jackson wasn't supposed to live, but medical progress is keeping him and Ashley Murphy alive.
I feel excited for the future some days, knowing what I want to be when I grow up and stuff, knowing what I want to do. I don't get too worried.
A future is something no one expected them to have, but against all odds, they are growing into adults, and with that comes adult choices. Choices like the ones this couple made.
A really big one.
John and Laura have a strong marriage and 2 healthy children. A family like any other. Except John and Laura aren't their real names. 16 by 9 agreed to conceal their identities because they fear retribution in their community.
We need to be discreet, and for our children's safety. And
you worry for your children's safety?
It can be. We don't want them to be shunned because of a disease that their father has. But I wish that it could be that you could have a conversation with someone and bring it up like someone who has cancer. That it's that normal that you don't have to hide it anymore.
But it's not cancer. John is HIV positive, infected as a young teen through tainted blood products for hemophilia. Expected to die, he survived.
Over Christmas, I was saying to my father, I never thought I'd see the day when I could walk through the bush with my dad and my little guy.
When John contracted the illness at just 14, he was told he had only 10 years to live.
I left school. I spent a lot of time at the bar. I didn't have a job. I ran around aimless, hoping to die.
Then Laura came into his life and made him want a future and a family. But that was a decision fraught with worry. Worry that he could pass on the virus to his wife or baby.
You know, there were so many things that could go horribly wrong. Are we bad people for even thinking this? For me personally, it was raising a child knowing that I may not be around for its entire life. So is that fair to the child?
John and Laura wanted to conceive safely, but 7 years ago, there was little information and a lot of resistance against someone with HIV having a child. In the end, they conceived their first child naturally.
Honestly, we tempted fate. We had our first little boy.
Why would you tempt fate at all? HIV, though it can be controlled, is still a deadly disease.
I just knew in my heart, I just had the faith that God would help me and that would be fine.
Luckily, neither Laura nor their first child, a boy, contracted the virus. But it wasn't a risk they were willing to take the second time around. Their daughter was conceived using fertility technologies. Dr. Heather Shapiro is a fertility specialist.
We get the smallest quantity of sperm, and what we do literally is wash it so that there is no virus on the sperm and put it directly into the uterus. And that will reduce the risk of infection to the woman to a negligible amount.
These days, medical precautions mean most children of HIV-infected mothers are born HIV-free. Problem is, many clinics in Canada still don't or won't offer the technology.
People with HIV should have access to all the fertility care that they need. It strikes me that there may be some old prejudices that are still around.
Prejudices aren't the only thing this family battles. The diseases still have John in their grip. The hemophilia and the HIV slowly wearing him down.
The medication I'm using are so toxic. They're making the changes in my body shape, the way my fat's distributed, appetite, nausea, hair loss. I stopped growing at 14 when I started the medication.
Once again, for John, the future is unclear. No one truly knows how many years HIV will steal from him.
There isn't a whole lot of data looking at that specific question, but there is a study that does show that there's probably about a 10-year difference in total life expectancy.
I know eventually I'm going to be a single parent. I'm hoping it's not anytime soon.
What they all hope for, this little girl, this young man, this father, is a long, healthy life, and that someday the face of AIDS will become the face of the past.
There could be like different meds in the future and stuff that I could be taking that could make me feel even more better. And one day there's probably going to be a cure for AIDS, so that will be even better.